Hi, pre-calculus. Good afternoon. I just wanted to make this hopefully short video about your assignment for today in case you need any support trying to get this done. I really appreciated all of the responses that I received on the How Did Our Class Respond bit. I thought you did an excellent job. Many of you were very thorough, and I also enjoyed reading your responses to each other. You'll see grades for those. As long as you've completed it, you'll get your full credit. But thank you. Thank you for that discourse that was happening. I know it's hard for us to have these types of math conversations when we're not in person. So I appreciate everybody giving responses, responding to those responses, really trying your best to have a conversation through this discussion forum on Schoology. So thank you for that. Again, great job. Keep it up. You'll see those grades for your effort a little later today and tomorrow. So just to kind of recap, let's look back at today's material. Okay, so pretty much the gist of this word problem that you're trying to tackle is about a cornerback named Patrick Peterson, right? He's in the NFL, and a couple of years ago, he was given a $15 million check. Why they actually wrote out $15 million in a check and they didn't just direct deposit or wire that money to him is besides the point. They give him a paper check, and that paper check sat at his house for a given amount of time while he just waited for, I guess, to cash it in. He just said he didn't get around to it. I suppose when you have $70 million contracts, maybe you're not really worried about $15 million. I would be worried about $15 million, but whatever the case may be, it made for a great math problem. All right, so let's start with today's assignment, which is 415, part 2, right? So the first part of your assignment, if you haven't done that already, please do that first. It was really just you guys trying to make some good guesses, okay? Trying to think about, you know, what would be unreasonable answers. And it might feel weird just guessing at first, but really it's a very powerful tool for you to be able to say, you know what, this answer doesn't make sense. It really helps us from submitting answers that are totally wrong in the future. You kind of have an idea of what makes sense. So some of you put some interesting things. Let's look at those first. Here, how did our class respond? Now I'm going to look at our responses. It's here in this link. And here are your responses. And these, just so that you know, are not only from our class, but they're also from Miss Katz's class. It's our entire group of pre-calculus students, which is kind of cool. And here are some of your responses. So we were on Zoom together yesterday, and some things that we wondered were, you know, why people keep our numbers with zeros at the end. You know, is it because when we guess things, we like to estimate and round significantly? That's very possible. This person was really specific, which I like. Another thing that some of you wondered was this student put smaller numbers, and maybe they meant $32,000 rather than just $32. So there were a lot of questions coming up. But my favorite part to read through from your work was, what information do we need to figure this out? Oh, look, Miss Katz is online. So she's looking too. So, you know, a lot of you expressed that you wanted to know the interest rate, right? So a lot of you understood that when you cash a check, if you put that check into your savings account has an interest rate. And what that interest rate does is it makes money off of your money. So one thing that we were talking about during our Zoom meeting was, you know, how do checks even work? And one thing that somebody was concerned about was, is Peterson losing money because the value of his check is going down? And I thought that was a great question because it really helped us understand that checks are checks. Okay, they're a given dollar amount and they're worth that amount unless they become void because you take so long to cash it. If you ever get a chance, most people get direct deposit now, but if you ever get a chance to see your parents' paycheck, a lot of the times it'll say on there void after 6 months, you know, because you can't just pull money out of somebody else's account 6 months from that time. It usually messes up with their financial banking. But the check itself, as long as it's you know, still intact, it doesn't lose its value. I know in the past we used to get gift cards, and if you don't use gift cards within a certain amount of time, so perhaps, you know, maybe a year you don't use a gift card, it'll start deducting some sort of, you know, dollar maintenance until the card is either used or it runs out of money. So that's not how checks work. Checks are checks. They have a dollar amount and that's what they're worth. So really what this question is asking is, if Peterson had deposited his check for 15 million and some dollars, if he had deposited that check right away, he would have made interest on that check over a given amount of time. Since he didn't cash that check or deposit that check, how much did he miss out on? That's really what the question is here. How much money could have been in his pocket just for having the 15 million sitting in his bank account? Okay, so that's our goal for this problem. In case it was still a little unclear about what's going on in the problem, that's our goal. And a lot of you, in order to get that information, were wondering a few things. You were wondering, you know, well, first of all, some of you were wondering what kind of excuses I didn't have time to deposit a check, so that was kind of cool. A lot of you want the interest rate, because many of you who are banking already know that different banks offer different interest rates. So, you know, what exactly is the interest rate that's being offered for this particular person? What bank did he bank with might be a question, because we can just look up the interest rate, as I think Jordan mentioned. Internet, right? Internet can help us find out the interest rate that we might need to find out about how much Peterson lost. Something else someone asked for was how long, you know, how much time did it actually take him to deposit that check into the bank? Some people wanted to know how much money was already in there. For this problem, we can actually not worry too much about that. We're just going to focus on how much money he would have made just off the 15 million. But if we were talking about his bank in general, this would have been a great piece of information that we would have needed for our starting value. So here's the amount of days, right? How many days did he take? Because we might need time. A lot of you expressed that you want an equation, which of course made me as a math teacher very happy, because yeah, an equation would be great. So for that equation, if you guys remember from the last video on exponential functions, we're going to need a starting value. We're going to need to know how it's growing, which is the interest rate that you asked for. And then we're going to need to know how much time it took. You know, how much time did it take him to actually deposit this check, because that's going to give us how much time that money would have been making money by itself, just sitting there in his bank. So you guys did a great job looking for different pieces of information. This person included an equation, which I think would be incredibly helpful for some of you trying to put this thing together. And yeah, that's about the gist of what you guys got for yesterday. So let's talk today. So coming back over here. For today's assignment, it is another Google form. Okay, so I'm going to open this up as though I were a student. And I'm going to fill out my Google form. Remember to please sign in with your school email. That way it registers you and we can give you credit. And how much did he lose? So I'm going to start by putting in my information. Okay, I'm going to say I'm in Mrs. Martin's class. And the information that many of you were requesting is now here. So we need to keep in mind that this whole incident with Peterson happened in 2014. So obviously things have changed since 2014. You'd kind of be surprised how much things can change in just a couple of years, let alone 6 years. So here were some general interest rates from several different banks in 2014. Okay, the banks that are used in this one aren't banks that we really have heard of, probably. Perhaps they took banks that were in the area where he lives, so they took banks, you know, that he might have banked with. So that's definitely possible. They're compounding daily, so that's good to know for those of you who use the very formal equation for compounding interest. For Mrs. Martin's class, we're going to just compound continuously, so you don't have to worry about that really lengthy equation. But if you wanted to use your Google powers and look that up on the internet, I think that would be great. But here are some APYs, some percent interest that you have available for these banks. Remember that you should be using the decimal version of these numbers. So try not to plug in 1.10 to your equations. That would end up meaning that we're doing 110%. And my goodness, wouldn't we all love 110% interest rate in our banks? Let's see, what else? I would go ahead and go with 1.10 probably, looking at these. We do have Silvergate Bank that has 1.8% interest rate, but you know, with the rest of them being 1.10, I would just stick with 1.10. Okay, so this was just some information for me to know about. Moving on, we saw an article in the last Google form, and here it is again, that showed that it was August 25th when they released the article, and he had received the check 27 days prior. Okay, so 27 days, just to keep everybody on the same page, 27 days is the time that we're going to go ahead and utilize for this problem. Okay, assuming that after they interviewed him, maybe he thought a little bit about it and went to go and deposit it right after his interview. So we're going to go ahead and assume 27 days since this article. Okay, so now with this 27-day information and this 1.10% information, and of course you know the starting value, right? Because you know how much the check was worth. Now we can use some exponential function work in order to find out how much money he would have made if he had deposited his check and let his check compound for 27 days. So I know it's exponential because we're multiplying percentages, right? His money is multiplying in the bank by this 1.10%. So feel free to use Desmos. Feel free to find equations for compounding interest. If you're having trouble with the compounding interest daily, so using the equation that you'll probably find has the letter N in that equation, go ahead and just compound continuously. Use our exponential functions and try to see how much money would he have made had he deposited his check at the appropriate time. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me. When you're done filling out and submitting this form, it's going to give you a link to your classmates' responses. If you lose that link, it'll still be available in your homework discussion. It's right here at the bottom, student answers. I'm not sure if anybody, yeah, nobody's posted yet, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not getting any data in yet, but you'll see everybody's answers here. And when you're done, you'll be able to go to this chart, which again has no data, and you'll be able to see, you know, how many people gave this answer, how many people gave that answer, how close were we, were there any answers that really stood out because they were really small or really large, what math issues might have come up when they were trying to solve those problems. So there's a lot of questions you might come up with. Please feel free to write them here in the discussion. Again, I really liked your discussion from yesterday, so I'm looking forward to reading what you have to write today. But again, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to email me. I hope you're all doing well. It's good to have you guys back after spring break, and I hope that you're doing your best with this current situation. And I hope to hear from you all soon. Looking forward to your work. Bye-bye.